Hello, welcome back. Welcome to this section. It's good to have you around. I'm Sir Lawrence. So I will be talking about the outline for the thorax. Alright, so this video I'm going to be dedicating it to the great BAM site. Alright, so in this video we're going to be talking about the thorax outline. So I don't know if you watched the video on the upper limb outline. So if you've not watched that and you're doing that as a course for this semester, check it up here. About an outline I have for the thorax. You can apply it to yours. If it works, fine, but it works for me and I believe it can work for you. Alright, so remember that in anatomy you have to study in sequence. You have to study in sequence. Sequential study makes you build knowledge upon knowledge, but when you study it in a disorderly format, you know that at the end of the day you get frustrated because most of what you are studying and they are not connected, and when they are not connected you have no way of recovering them easily. But when you have a connection between knowledge to knowledge, you see that you gain more confidence and you're able to integrate everything into one piece. Alright, so the first thing you're going to study in your thorax is you have to start with, as we know, or introduction. You have to start with introduction, the part. Know about the thorax. Why is it so? What are the parts of the thorax? What's the function of the thorax? Alright, know the layers from superficial to deep to the cavity layer, like the thoracic cavity. What do you have from superficial to deep? Know those introduction. Know the general blood supply. Know the general innervation. Then you have to know your aperture. How does it connect with other regions? How does it connect with the neck? How does it connect with the upper lip? How does it connect with the abdomen? All those basics you have to build on them before diving into the real daddy. So once you're done with that, the next thing you need to do is to study your osteology. Very important. You have to study the bones. You have to study the joints. Know about the bones. What do you use? How do you differentiate this rib from this rib? Those are things you need to know, because when you see them, you have to be able to differentiate. Now, what are the features you can see in a rib when you see it? What are the general features? What are the unique features of a particular rib? Talk about your sternum ossification. Know about the development of ossification. It's very important because when you go into radiological anatomy or radiology in the future, you have to apply that knowledge of the development, because these bones, their ossification play a role in determining the age of that individual. So if you can know the ossification and know what's going on, you can actually be able to flourish in your radiological anatomy. Alright, so once you're done with understanding your osteology, knowing your joints, the next thing you need to study is studying your thoracic wall. Studying your thoracic wall, you need to study it from superficial to deep. Study thoracic wall from superficial to deep, from skin layer down to the lowest layer. You study down to the intercostal muscle. So you're going to study from superficial to deep. Study intercostal muscle, study the vessels, how they originate, how they course between the ribs, study the nerves, their origin and how they course, and the branches they give. Then you go deep, you study all those structures deep, endothoracic fissure, all those things that make up the thoracic wall. The vertebra, study them, know those things very well. So once you're done with that, you have to go into the next thing, the breathing mechanism, because the thoracic wall plays a role in breathing. Alright, the muscles there, they play a role in breathing. You can see it's connected. Alright, it's connected. So now you need to study breathing. How does the thoracic wall, what role does the thoracic wall play in breathing? So you need to know those breathing, pump handle mechanism, bucket handle mechanism, pacing mechanism, all those things. You need to know them. Alright, so those are things you need to know when it comes to it. So the first thing is start with introduction. Second, you start with your osteology. Third, talk about the thoracic wall. Fourth, talk about your breathing mechanism. So once you're done with your breathing mechanism, the next thing you need to talk about is the thoracic cavity. So when you're talking about the thoracic cavity, you're going to start from, you can divide the thoracic cavity into parts, right? You have the part laterally placed, you have the part in the midline. Alright, the part laterally placed contains what? Your lungs. there's nothing much about that. You just need to study what the pleural fluid, origin, the visceral covering, just little stuff you need to know there about the part laterally placed. Now when you come to the part in the midline, you have to study a lot about it. Yeah. The mediastinum. So in the mediastinum, what you study there, you have to study each part of the mediastinum, the divisions of the mediastinum, and the content in the mediastinum from anterior to posterior. Know the structures from anterior to posterior. Why? This is important. You have to have a picture of it from anterior to the posterior. Very important. So once you have studied that, you've studied the thoracic cavity, you've gotten the knowledge of that, I think you're good to go. You're good to go. You can go into the what? The systems now. You start with what? Your lungs. You can start with the heart. For me, I like to start with something that's not too common. So you can start with the lungs. First, you start with the what? Respiratory tract. Respiratory tract. Study the respiratory tract. What make up the respiratory tract? From the upper end down to the terminal end. Study everything that make up the respiratory tract. Now you're going to integrate your embryology and you're going to integrate your histology here. So once you study the gross anatomy, you have to integrate your development, which is embryology. You have to integrate your histology into this. So you study the respiratory tract and you study the lungs. Now when you're studying the lungs, you have to study what is covering of the lung, which is called what? The pleura. Why? You need to know the applied anatomy of it, not just studying it. You have to know the applied anatomy relating to the what? To the pleura. So once you're done with that, know your lung anatomy very well. And the part you need to know very well in your lung anatomy is the bronchopulmonary segment. That's very important because each segment has blood supply innervation, you get lymphatic. So you need to know all those things. Very, very important. Now when you're studying, you need to know how to identify each of these structures. Not just knowing it. How do they relate? For example, your lung. How do you identify the right from the left? How do you identify the borders? How do you tell that this is the right? How do you tell that this is the left? What are the structures that are related to the lungs? What are the, just know your relations very, very well. So once you're done with that, you can now dive into what? The heart. When you study the heart, you have to study the heart by studying the gross, studying your embryology, and studying what? Your histology. So you need to study all that about heart. Know the pericardium, the anatomy of the pericardium covering it, and know the anatomy of the heart. So once you're done with that, what do you do next? The next thing I think you need to do is to study. You need to study those vessels relating to it. You need to study the vessels arising from the heart, which comprises of what? You have a what? Superior vena cava is coming in. You have to study the aorta, which is going out. You have to study the pulmonary trunk, which is going out. Then you have to study the inferior vena cava, which is coming in. Are you seeing it? So you studied all those things at the side, studied the midline structure. Now you're studying what is going out and what is coming in. You see how it's connected? Superior vena cava, aorta, study your pulmonary trunk and the vessels it gives out. Now you study the what? Inferior vena cava, which is coming in. So once you've studied that, the next thing you need to study, start going back. Let's see if you can study. We've studied trachea. Okay, let's go back. The next thing you need to study is what? Your esophagus. So you need to study your esophagus, the thoracic part of it. You need to study your thoracic part of the esophagus. What are the innervations to the esophagus? You can actually go further to study the cervical part. You know, now esophagus, you need to study it in one bit. Just study everything about it. The origin, the cause, the termination. Now you need to study, you need to study those constrictions. That's the major thing. Once you're done with that, I think we are done. We've gone. Okay, the next thing you need to study is thing by the sides. You need to study the azygous system and the hemiazygous system together as one piece. So you study hemiazygous system and the azygous system. And once you're done with that, remember when you're studying your esophagus, study it along with the thoracic duct. Yeah, you can study it along with that. I think so. You can study it along with that. Yeah, you can study it along with the thoracic duct before going to what? Azygous system and hemiazygous system. So once you're done with studying the azygous system and the hemiazygous system, I think that's just basically what's remaining. So you can then look at for all those other structures. But remember, there's something I didn't tell you about the first time. In studying your introduction, make sure you know the general lymphatic systems relating to the thorax. Know the general innervation. I believe I've said that. know your general blood supply. Very much important is very important is the lymphatic lymphatic system, because you'll be hearing about the pretracheal lymph nodes, you'll be hearing about those lymph nodes, mediastinal lymph node. You get all those lymph nodes, begin to wonder what is all this they are saying. But when you study your lymphatic system, you're able to tell, okay, this is what they are saying, this is what they are saying, this is what they are saying. You get that's one mistake I made at the first time. You know, if there's time to correct it, I will. Alright, so now you have to study those things before you go into what? Studying all this I've just said. So once you've studied your azygos system, human azygos system, you study your thoracic system. I think that's just basically what you need to study. So once you're done with that, you go into what? Your thoracic diaphragm. Thoracic diaphragm. Yeah, you have to know that. Yeah. Yes, you have to know about thoracic. You cannot leave your thorax without knowing your thoracic diaphragm. It's going to look somehow. Yeah. Because the thoracic diaphragm is going to what? It's going to enclose the what? Inferior thoracic aperture. You get. So you need to know what you're looking out for is there. What you're looking out for there is the openings. Alright. What vessels, what structures pass through the openings of the thoracic diaphragm, and what is the function of the thoracic diaphragm? What role does it play? What are the parts? Those are things you're going to look out for in your thoracic diaphragm. And once you're done with that, I believe you're done with your thorax. If you can do this, I believe you're done with your thorax. The next thing you need to go into is studying your surface anatomy. Study your surface anatomy. Alright? Then study your radiological anatomy. So you see that with all this now, you studied your thorax. Thorax kind of, people say it's very easy. Do you think it's very easy? I feel it is. It is actually, but you need to start on time. Yeah, you need to start on time. You need to be focused, because I know if you don't start on time, you're going to miss it. You may feel it's very simple, but when you look at it, when you don't start on time, maybe you don't follow the real approach, or you don't follow sequence, like I say, you may find it difficult. Alright, so I believe this can help. I believe it will be helpful to you. So if you have an outline, you can integrate this to your outline. This is my personal outline, and I believe it can work for you if you apply it. Okay, so it's good to have you around. See you for now. Bye.
Hey, thanks for sticking around. It's good to have you around. Like this video if you've got some relevant info and share with your friends. If you are new here, we are so delighted having you around. Please feel free to join us across our social media handles. Links are in the description box below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos like this. See you!